the courts are filled and funded by average men through divorce. They're not typically funded by your rich class. Numerically doesn't even make any sense. The retirements and things of that nature, those are significant if you spent the last 20 plus odd years working, maybe acquired, I think your average is like 200,000, 300,000 in a 401k, give or take. To split that down the middle, yeah, you don't get that time back. So I just think that it's fair for men to be a little bit more cautious. I personally advocate that men should be aligning themselves with women that have something to also lose in the event that a relationship comes to their demise.
Has been asking her to marry her because they've been together for a while now, and she has been struggling with the idea of ever, allowing herself to marry again. And I said, well, I could relate to that. I've been in a relationship now with my lady Zelly for 5 years. Mm-hmm. And she's always hinting at marriage. And some people will say, oh, you're a Band-Aid, you're just filling in the blanks. And, at a certain point, he's going to dispose of you and then go find the woman that he actually wants to marry. But people don't understand is that your opinion is formulating from things that you have never experienced.
Right.
You don't know what it's like to wake up, get married, have a prenuptial agreement in place, have the prenup to get cracked, where you end up paying all of her legal fees and my legal fees. And now I'm paying all this money to attorneys trying to protect what I have. And then you realize that somebody marries you and then they said, I don't want to be here anymore. And then they trying to take everything that belongs to you with them. And it is really a painful process. And so, well, hey, if we could be happy and we could be together and we could not get married, because if you ever decide that you don't want to be married anymore, now you're going to be another person trying to take everything that I've worked my butt off for the last 30 years. And what does that look like? And how long is this going to last before the judge decides this is my final judgment? So everything about my last divorce took 4.5 years. I lost all of my appeals in the lower courts. Then I lost all of my appeals in the Supreme Courts. And so I had like 3 weeks to cough up almost $1.2 million that I did not have to give. Mm-hmm. And then who do I turn to?
Right.
When I'm financially depleted.
Right.
I was doing all right financially until this divorce turned into 4.5 years.
I got this.
All right, that brings me to this question. If marriage can financially ruin someone, why do we still shame people for avoiding it?
I'm going to venture to say that this is a man's this is a man's fantasy. Like, this is an average man's fantasy. Average men fantasize about what rich men go through. You all are not getting divorced and losing everything. Because you don't have anything. Or you have equal as much as she does. Because, like, you don't, it's not the man that's like, these are my financials. And then they split your money. Both of you have to show your financials. And you split both. And not just your bank accounts, but your retirement, all of your assets, if you have any. Some of y'all are renters and don't even have it. So, like, let's just be real. Like, this is not a conversation for average men, yet average men are having this conversation all the time. Also, if you're losing something in that divorce, then that means that you had more than her. And then isn't that how it works? So I'm just saying, like, I don't think that there is any shame in it. Like, if you don't want to get married, don't get married, but like, don't play like you want to get married. If you scared of divorce, don't get married. But don't play like you want to be with their woman like that. Like, just tell her, I don't want marriage. And then just move on and let her move on instead of wasting years of her life. So just 2 points. You know what I'm saying? Like, average man, you good. But if you scared, just don't get married. That's it. That's all.
Yeah, I wish it was that simple. You know, I love you both. But I think that you provided an oversimplification, and I do agree to an extent that typically these big numbers that you see are more on the people who, you know, are affluent. However, the courts are filled and funded by average men through divorce. They're not typically funded by your rich class. It numerically doesn't even make any sense. The retirements and things of that nature, those are significant if you spent the last 20 plus odd years working, maybe acquired, I think your average is like 200,000, 300,000 in a 401k, give or take. To split that down the middle, yeah, you don't get that time back. So I just think that it's fair for men to be a little bit more cautious. I personally advocate that men should be aligning themselves with women that have something to also lose in the event that a relationship comes to their demise, because a lot of these conversations seem to change when women have property. Maybe they have a mortgage, like you were stating, Bo, or whatever they have worked for. But it's interesting that it's shamed when they're the one on the financial side that's minimal. And then now it's like, oh, well, if you're scared to marry, it's like, nah, I think men have a valuable reason to be a little bit more cautious nowadays. And I'll land.
You know, Bo made a point that when you said that men are like fantasizing about kind of being like guys with money. I agree with you, but I also think like women do the same thing on other topics. Like I can go outside and I can tell girls, you know, I'm not really interested in dating a woman who makes more money than me, and all these broke women will get mad at me. You know what's crazy? I had that conversation with my woman a long time ago, and she was like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Yo, you don't have nearly as much money as me. This is never a problem for us. This will never be a problem for us. Why are you upset?" Like, you know, like average women will argue you down, and you can be making well over $1 million. An average woman will argue you down, like, why can't you date it? Like, that ain't shit. You don't gotta ever worry about that, baby. You don't gotta ever worry about that. So yeah.
Now, if there's one thing I don't believe happens is that I'm sorry, like y'all just be out here making shit up just for the sake of it. In 2026, we just gotta stick to the facts. There is just no reality where a woman will hear a man say, you know, I want to be the breadwinner in my relationship and get mad because of their own pockets. That does not have like if a woman hears a man say, I'm not interested in dating a woman who makes more money than me because I would like to be the breadwinner in my relationship, the average retort from that woman will not be, oh my gosh, how could you want to make more money according to the patriarchy and the wage gap system that we currently live in today? That's so typical. That doesn't happen. So I don't like that's what I mean. And I understand like if you're interviewing people on the Miami Strip, because those interviews do be fire, right? But they're lies. Like when people are interviewing people at 3 a.m. and they say anything, but in real conversations, that's just not reality. More often than not, you hear people complaining about expectations versus reality that don't make sense and don't align. Like when you hear men say, I want black women need to be stay-at-home, submissive women. And you're like, the state of reality does not exist in that scope, meaning the majority of men cannot afford that. That's probably what you hear more so women arguing. But if you're a well-off man and you say, I would like to date a woman who makes less than me because I would like to be a breadwinner and I actually have the money to supplement that lifestyle, I do not see a bunch of women coming at you and arguing with you about that.
So Pretty, are you open to being wrong on this topic?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. I think men have a different experience. I know for me, at least for me, and I think a lot of men will tell you their experience if I'm having an average conversation with a woman and I'm telling her like I would never date a woman who makes more money than me, she's going to think that I'm an insecure man. And she might think that I have a fragile ego. She might say it to me also. I think that I would wager that if we even just did a social experiment where we had that conversation with women, that she would say, you have a fragile ego. I'm pretty positive she'll throw something out there at me that, some sort of disparaging remark. And let's ask the other guys. I want to know your opinion. So how do y'all feel? Am I wrong or?
So I think like if you come out of the gate and say what you would never date, oftentimes when you speak about what you don't want instead of what you do want, you get an adverse reaction from people because you start with a negative. It's kind of like when you hear people say, I don't want to date Black women because they're aggressive. Instead of just saying, hey, I like these women because of this thing. Like you usually would get an adverse reaction when you start with what you don't want rather than what you do want. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there, but I also still do believe that if you say, I want to be the breadwinner, I want to be the one providing for my family, you're not going to get an adverse reaction as a majority.
Well, what you said is a little bit different. So what I said was, I'm not open to dating a woman with more money than me. That's unappealing to me. I won't do it. Right. A lot of women will be like, you won't do what? Why? What's the reason? What's the issue? As if they have more money than me, almost, So
what is the reason? I am curious to know what is the reason that you wouldn't date a woman that makes more money than you if she has the qualities that you're looking for in a mate.
So it's very possible that maybe I would be open to it, right? Most likely I wouldn't do it. Most likely it'll never happen. I know that me as a man, I take pride in being a man. I take pride in providing. Like it makes me feel good to open doors. It's not an option. You can open your own door if you're with me. I want to do it because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good to provide for you. It makes me feel good to, take you on vacations and do these type of things. It makes me feel warm inside. So that's one of the little things in life that I'll make sure that I have. So,
So how does just for clarification, how does her financial standing has any impedes any of those things that you said you want to do for her? And the reason I say that is because I did read something one time that said a lot of women that do make money, men tend to forget that they still want those things done for them as well. But men automatically assume because they have it that they'll just do it themselves, and they tend to get neglected. So I guess I'm asking you, how does that impede your ability to do all of the things that you just said that you wanted to do for a woman?
Yeah. So I'm not saying that there's not no woman on earth that does not make a substantial amount of money that doesn't allow it to corrupt her in some way, right? But what I'm saying is that most women who can provide for themselves and who can do all of these things, at least while they're young and they're around my age, they get a certain vibrato about them, and they have a certain energy of like, yo, I want you, but I don't need you, you know. But once they get a little bit older, I do think that they kind of are more open to like, they mature and they're like, you know what, I just want a partner. I want a life partner. I want somebody to go through life with. I don't care about the money. I don't care about all that type of nonsense. And the money is insignificant. But I think most women that would be around my age would probably still be going through that phase where they, they kind of, they want to pull their dick out too,